What sort of parents could mislay their child for 3 days? And what about the teachers in the temple? Didn't they ask Jesus where he was staying, where his parents were? Were they stupid? Did he lie to them? Is the account of the boy Jesus in the temple about careless adults and a footloose though precocious 12-year-old? No, it is about the man he grew up to be. The hint comes from the fact that it was on the third day that his parents found Jesus. For any Christian, that phrase brings to mind the resurrection. Luke presents this story not to tell us about the childhood of Jesus, but to give a synopsis of his gospel, a summary that begins with the birth of John and ends with the discovery on the third day of Jesus who had been lost. The synopsis presented as the infancy and childhood of Jesus is followed immediately by a shift to the future, to the prophetic ministry of John. It then moves through the activity of Jesus to his death and the disciples' encounter on the third day with the risen one everyone thought had been lost forever in death. What can we learn about the life and mission of Jesus from the part of the summary that we hear today? It might be helpful to turn off our imagination for a few minutes, to drive from our minds the pictures we've seen of a boy sitting with bearded old men, looked at by a surprised lady in blue and a bearded man with a staff in his hand. Let's just look at the words of the account and see what they remind us of in the life of Jesus. Luke's story takes place in Jerusalem at Passover, the feast of the liberation of the Hebrew people by an extraordinary work of God, the Exodus. Years later, at another Passover in Jerusalem, God freed all peoples from the power of sin and death through another extraordinary work, the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. At the end of the celebration, the parents of Jesus think he is lost, though he's exactly where he belongs. After that Passover years later, the Emmaus story puts a pair of disciples on the road, thinking that Jesus is lost, though he is exactly where he belongs, with them. Then Luke tells of finding the child in the temple on the third day. The temple is the place of God in the world, the chief point of worship, the place where people could expect to experience the holiness of God. Jesus is there because Jesus has become the new temple. Remember that Luke tells us the old temple's veil was torn apart when Jesus died. In the temple, Jesus is among the teachers because he is a teacher. Luke intends to share Jesus' teaching, so from the start he is among the teachers. However, Jesus is much more than a teacher. He is the Son of God. Therefore he says, "Did you not know I had to be in my Father's house?" The mystification of his parents, who did not grasp what he said to them, is paralleled by people in every age who are mystified by Jesus. However, mystification does not mean separation. Jesus stayed with his parents as he stays with his church. As the boy Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor, so too the church grows in wisdom, years, and favor. This gospel story, then, is not a story about the child Jesus. It is a story of the gospel as Luke plans to present it to us. In this liturgical year, we will reflect upon that gospel of Luke. We will reaffirm our commitment to follow the teachings of Jesus, to recognize him as the true Son of God, the temple where God dwells among us. We will struggle as a community of faith and as individuals to grow in wisdom and favor with God and the world.